and we're going to run through data migration, admin training using Dataloader.io. I'm just showing the Dataloader.io platform. You can get 10,000 free record uploads per month per org. If for whatever reason, if y'all really did like need to have you know, a upload of more than 10,000 records in a month, you could do a free trial and just have everything prepared. So it's another way, but it's only, I think it's like $100 a month. So if like 1 month you really needed to go up, you could just buy it for 1 month and then go back down to the free service. A file in mind or some data in mind that you want to upload, how you're going to format your files, how you'll decide what type of upload you want to do, which object we want to do. We recommend always doing the full batch or a batch of data into Sandbox just to get familiar with the process, but then also be able to just do some data QA before uploading it into the production org. When you go to log in, you'll have the opportunity to select if you want to log into production and do the data updates or data inserts or Sandbox. Sometimes if you're already logged into the org, it'll recognize that you're logged in and make it a little smoother. The getting started has like welcome documentation, how, give me some tutorials. This help center right here is it'll connect you to their knowledge base and allow you to submit like a case if there are any issues that you're facing. It could be with like an error, a loading error, anything that you can't figure, you can hit a request here too. They're very responsive. They will keep responding until you answer them, which is a good thing. Upgrade is like if you wanted to up your plan. So we're going to use the free, and then there's a professional, then there's an enterprise. When you're actually ready to start a new, upload, you'll hit new task. We'll go through this first and then talk about formatting the file itself, because that probably be easier. So under new task, you can do an import, meaning that you're either updating existing records or you're adding new records into your Salesforce environment. Export is if you want to download something or, export it out. The one thing that may be nice to do it this way versus in you can export through a Salesforce report too. Like that's a quick and dirty way to do it. There is another ability to do it here, but it probably makes more sense to just export from a report in Salesforce. Then if you needed to mass delete any records, you have that function too. If you're deleting, it will require that you have a file with the Salesforce ID, either the exact ID or another field that you want to use as an ID.
Okay.
For this purposes, we're going to go to import. The first line will be the connection just to confirm the org that you are uploading it to. And in operations, you have 3 options. You can insert, which means these are all new records into Salesforce. An upsert is a combination of an update, which means records that already exist, and new records. So an upsert is existing and new, and then update is for updating existing records. field, you'll still need an ID field in that file. And essentially it will have, we can do it real quick too. It'll have an option for you to say, if the ID field is not found, you'll select a checkbox that says, then create the field create the record as new. Well, when you select the file, so you'll want to format your file, it should be a CSV file. That's the only one it recognizes. Once you upload that file, it will then pull all of the column headers as the kind of Salesforce mapping field. So you'll find that the columns will be in the source header column here, and then it'll have a sample data from in the first row in the file, or the second row in the file. And then the last column is the Salesforce field. So in here, the ID, I could do two things. I could use the donor ID as the field, or I could say I want to use the account name as the field, or as the ID. Because I don't have account ID, what you would do if I wanted to use the account name as the ID, I would copy, and it essentially creates a copy of the account column. And then under select, I'll use ID to say I want to use the account name as the ID. When you use another like ID field that's not the actual Salesforce ID, you'll select this lookup via. So essentially it's saying I want to look up the account name, which is this field, and use that as the account ID. So this is how you can get around having to export the Salesforce ID. It's not a bad idea to export the Salesforce ID, but if you're using, if this is all new records and you don't want to have to do a VLOOKUP, this is one way you can do it, is just saying, I'm going to reference the account name as the Salesforce ID. Then you'll have two options to say use first match if multiple results. So, and this is the case of like duplicates. You can say, okay, I'll use the first record that it finds as the result, or you can say, if there are duplicates, I just want to mark it as an error and then I'll handle the duplicates later. That's a good rule of thumb too, of using error files. It's like, okay, we're going to let what worked, what was successful stay, and then use the error files for like a part 2, 3, however long it takes until there are no errors and all the records are uploaded. Usually for me, if it's like if I have 5 errors and I can't figure out how to make the change, like 5 or less, and it's not a lot of like data, I'll usually just create it manually in Salesforce. But it will produce a success record or file and then an error file, so that you just kind of confirm like what actually was uploaded, what wasn't, and then use that error to either create another file or upload it manually. And then this checkbox here is okay, because we're doing an upsert, if it's not found, then create it as new. And so that's the checkbox you'll use for that. Even though the file has all these columns, if this was the only thing you needed to update, like you could just do the account name, or you can select all the data and map it to the Salesforce field. If there are required fields, when you do hit the select when you're doing your mapping, that's required for the data imported, we'll list that here. So like, say you left out account name and it was required to map into, you would just have to go back and either use a different field as the account name or add it into the file itself. The other nice thing is when you are ready to actually do the update. Let me move this real quick. So it will give you a preview of how many records it finds in the files. This is important to pay attention to because sometimes when you're converting like an Excel to CSV, it may have like all the rows in there because the way it converted. So you do want to just do some like quick data checks of like how many records are in the file so that you know that this is recording it properly. You can also schedule it. Like if you have like a job or maybe this file had like 100,000 records and you didn't want it to run all at once, you can kind of schedule how it gets completed and get the results in an email, send it to yourself, send it to whomever. And then there's some like advanced settings, like if the data is formatted in a certain way, you want to change that. How it inserts null values, then you can save it and then come back to it and run it. Running it will then actually process it. When it does process, it will load here and then give you a link to the number of successful records and the number of error records, and that link will then download the CSV file of each of those. And then also have a history. So if you use this, you can reuse this and then just change the file in it. And then it'll show you a history of this whole log.